Mayor, I want to welcome all of you here to our public hearing for the CalAccount, the Revenue Commission. This is an opportunity for members of the public to talk to us and eventually the larger California population at large about issues regarding banking access. We have a couple of guest speakers today, and we're going to open up to public comment. Appreciate each of you coming in today and spending time with us this afternoon. And with that, I would like to invite our first guest speaker, Maria Maldonado, the statewide director for SEI Unified for 15. Maria.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Maria Maldonado and I've been director in California. And I strongly support the creation of California account, but I want to start sharing my story. I'm an immigrant, and 25 years ago, I had to cash my checks in those places where they charge you $2 for every $100 that you want to cash. And for me, it's shocking that many years after, it's still the same issue. Well, workers that I listen to their stories every day, they're still going through the same situation that they have to pay a lot of money to cash their checks. And also like the risk that they go through every time that they have to work with a lot of money in their pockets and a lot of money for them, right? Like maybe $1,000 after working 2 weeks. And in my experience too, also I have to work one time and I cashed my refund and I was a victim of a robbery and they stole $2,000 for my purse. And I'm really honored to speak on behalf of a lot of workers, and I wanted to share that. But our members give us a window into millions of lives that will be changed by this program. Our members are predominantly women of color and are among those most likely to pay overdraft fees. To have unaffordable minimum balances to avoid monthly fees and to face barriers to participate in the current financial system. More than 30% of Black households in our state and more than 30% of Latino households are unbanked and underbanked. Black, Latino, and Asian households combined make up just over half of Californians' households, but are 72% of Californians unbanked. Low-wage workers, including immigrants, service workers, healthcare workers, retail workers, farm workers, college students, and hundreds of thousands of other workers should not be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars each year to banks, making billions of dollars from their unnecessary fees. What is wrong with the current system and why we are so excited about the CalAccount? Most checking accounts require either a monthly fee or a minimum balance or both. Most checking accounts require those two things, right? What do you think the average minimum balance is to avoid paying a fee? Fast food workers' average weekly paycheck often hovers at $450 per week. So hopefully it would be less than a week's worth of pay, but no. The average minimum balance for checking accounts is almost $500. Or you have to pay a fee. If you don't, you end up having to pay the bank for simply not having enough money. For minimum wage workers, it's nearly impossible to meet these minimum balance requirements. These are the essential workers who were heroes during COVID, but are still working 2 or 3 jobs to survive. So instead of being able to save money at their banks, minimum wage workers either end up paying fees or they go without a banking account and instead turn to check cashing places. Millions of low wages workers in California can afford to keep hundreds of dollars in an account to avoid paying fees. They are very sophisticated, and before they used to charge you $2 for each $100, but now they ask you to buy gold, to buy stuff that they don't want to, clothing, like they want to provide for their families. They want to buy food. They don't want to buy gold. What's more, the system is purposely complicated to set up workers to pay unnecessary fines and fees that follow the meager paychecks. We have heard that some banks have chosen to reduce or eliminate overdraft fees, and the federal government is trying to limit those fees. And even still, the overwhelming majority of bank accounts, 91%, impose overdraft fees. In fact, the total amount of fees people pay rose by 2.5 billion in 2022. It's crazy, right? Who is paying these financing fees? Financially vulnerable households of all races pay some 40% of their income on interest and fees for financial services. Low-income households are hit the hardest by overdraft and insufficient fund fees, while just 10% of households with over 175,000 in income were charged this fee the year before. The share is 3 times higher, 34%, for households making less than 65,000 a year. And people of color are also subject to discrimination even when just trying to open a bank account. Reports show that discriminations in the banking system makes it more difficult for people of color to open accounts or just to access their own funds. One of our members had 10,000 in an emergency account, and when she tried to withdraw in an emergency, was told for security purposes she had to wait over a week to access her own money, even though her name and address matched her ID. When people like our members visit a bank as a potential new customer, they are too often told that the bank does not offer a no-fee, no minimum balance account. Bank staff then too often fail to mention low-fee accounts, such as bank-owned accounts. Even when asked about these options, that is according to a 2022 survey of over 100 California bank branches. Having access to bank account is also a security issue. Without access to a bank account, riding the bus home after work carrying cash, then walking home late at night or early in the morning, how likely do you think is that they could be robbed of all their earnings? We have a few people that share their stories and they said I have to walk 2 hours just to cash their check after having to work in 2 different places. This is unbelievable. Without a bank account, it's not only harder to get paid or pay bills, it's also harder to access most needed services like making payments to medical providers, utility companies, and landlords. Also remember that now a lot of people are using Zelle. So you need an account to use those apps. Low-wage workers, immigrant workers, women of color, we all deserve access to a fair banking option with no fees, no fines, no overdraft fees, and no requirement to keep a minimum balance. Workers are expecting us to do something about it. They deserve it. They have been working so hard and they are expecting us to do something. Thank you for your attention to this issue, and we look forward for partnering with you to make this program a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Up next, we have our guest speaker, Sam Molina, founder and CEO of the Academy of Financial Education. Sam.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Samuel Williams, CEO and founder of the Academy of Financial Education. We are a Fresno-based organization with a mission to close the wealth gap through financial education. We do this through classroom instruction and individual mentorship. Throughout my experience as a financial advisor and now as a financial educator, I have met several people, specifically within the Latino and immigrant community, that have little to no relationships with the banking system. Many times it is because of a distrust they have with the banks or an experience that their parents have passed down to them. It is also because of the scarce number of banks that are present here in the Central Valley and more specifically within the local communities. I'm here today to speak in support of CalAccount and its benefit to the community. Because of the lack of banking resources in the Central Valley, every week members of our community are faced with the decision to cash their checks at pending allocations, and they're required to pay a fee. For example, I held a banking and budgeting presentation in November in the community of Lowell, which is here near downtown Fresno, and a young mother had shared with me that every time she goes to cash a check, she must pay $11. Right, so that's 52 checks a year, that's nearly $600 a year that she has to pay in her fees, which is more than what I have to pay to get my checks deposited in my account, right? The fees required to cash a check make it difficult for individuals and families to grow wealth. Again, that's $600 that she doesn't get back, right? When at every quarter they must pay for the services that you might enjoy for free. Additionally, most checking accounts require either a monthly fee or a minimum balance, or both. Because of these fees, consumers paid $37.5 billion in bank account fees and other financial transaction fees in 2022. As my colleague mentioned, that's $2.5 billion more than in 2020. And according to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, rural communities are in perpetual poverty, right? And part of that reason is because of the fact that they have a lack of access to the banking system. By providing universal access to essential financial services such as direct deposit and zero cost, zero penalty debit card account, CalAccount removes the need for predatory and extractive high cost services offered by check cashers and payday lenders. I join my colleagues in supporting CalAccounts and removing these barriers that hinder our community and creating wealth for themselves and their families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the CalAccount Blue Ribbon Commission and its objectives this year. I'm Cassandra De Benedetto. I'm the Executive Director for the CalAccount's Blue Ribbon Commission. It is in the State Treasurer's Office. Fiona Mott is our treasurer, and she is a member of the commission, as well as the commissioner for the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. And then we have Assembly, Governor, and Senate appointees as well. One of the objectives of the CalAccount Blue Ribbon Commission is to provide a feasibility study on the CalAccount program. This study is being completed by RAND. It encompassed 5 tasks. The first task is a survey of underbanked Californians, which is a multi-mode bilingual survey. They are looking for a representative sample of 750 and underbanked state residents, and the data will be used to understand financial management strategies of the state's most vulnerable populations and their interest in a public bank. Task 2 is to get a landscape of banking options, and the RAND will document the range of traditional and alternative banking options available across the state, along with their associated fees and balance requirements, investigate the presence and effectiveness of private sector competitors through a geospatial lens, examine the effects of historical redlining on the current banking landscape, and assess the role and effects of the check system in limiting bank access. The third task is a cost benefit analysis. This is structured to comport with the California Administrative Procedure Act, so that we are doing this in a way that allows for the program to be stood up as quick as possible, to determine the costs and benefits to multiple stakeholders, and to establish different hypothetical scenarios to produce a range of possibilities when we're talking about options for incorporating this program. They're also doing an impact analysis. That's their 4th task, and that is to gauge the impact on racial and ethnic and gender disparities in bank rates, short-term savings and long-term benefits to low-income families, public safety, and how it will impact current banking industry. And the 5th task is to assess the feasibility of the proposed bank structure with proposed modification to ease burdens, evaluate the process by which individuals can participate without ID, and to draw upon best practices to inform the governance of the board and public-private partnerships. So that is their 5 tasks. The report will be issued July 1 with a public comment period, and then the final report will be issued in August 8th. And with that, I would like to open it up to public comment. Due to some technical issues, if you are online watching this particular meeting, please feel free to type your public comment into the chat. If you are in the room and you would like to provide a public comment, I would just ask that you would line up over here and we'll go through. And when you come up, please introduce yourself with your name and who you're affiliated with, if you were with an organization.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is David Mendoza. I'm the project director for the Fresno Native American Center. I've been the project director for the past 12 years. We are part of the MBDA program, Department of Commerce, addressing Native American, Alaskan, and Hawaiian tribes and building economic development and quality of life. And I'm hearing very much from the speakers already the need for CalAccount, how much it's needed. As Sam had mentioned about the rural communities, most of the tribes I work with, and I work with tribes in California from Stockton all the way down to San Francisco. Tremendous predatory lending going on there on very, very small budgets that they have to work with, number one. I also have been working with the CRA community, some of the Pauline and Kevin on working with banks, and that they're not getting it done. We're having problems there where banks are closing, more branches, becoming more sophisticated, where some of the people that are not familiar with the banking technology get left out. But I think I'd like to address today, in particular, the Native American community and rural communities, how they're being hurt and their budgets being slashed with predatory lending. And it not only comes from the payday lenders, it also is the transportation to and from these locations. And these predatory lenders and their partners have no limit of how they take advantage of people. They keep charging and charging for transportation. There are more any opportunities. The term predatory is very apropos because they do take advantage. And I think what the idea for CalAccounts is excellent of forcing the banks not to charge fees, forcing alternatives where you can save your account, save your budgets. I'd like to mention a few things on the unbanked American Indian and Alaskan Hawaiian communities in the U.S. Their unbanked is very unrepresentative financial services. I'm sure you've heard the numbers, but from the federal, the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, households of banking and financial services to Native communities are unranked is 16.3%, are unbanked. In California, it's even higher, 22.5%. So what it impacts these is what I see, and it really hurts to see communities that I don't know how many are you familiar with the TANF, the temporary assistance needy families programs. These are on reservations. These are migrant workers that have very little that need help. Predatory lending takes advantage of these. You think there would be more laws to prevent this. I guess they're unenforceable, or the banks are not allowing it. Many payday lenders are operated by larger banks. What I'd like to is really encourage getting rid of these financial deserts that are created in rural communities, where our Native Americans and all our communities are low and moderate incomes are hurt by bank fees, by payday lenders, by the environment of needing to stretch their budgets and not being able to do so. Access to capital is really a difficult task for in the rural areas where there's little jobs. The migrant workers and the Native Americans have a very difficult time to keep a household budget together. What I believe what CalAccounts proposes is to address and strengthen that budget where they have money to work with and give them an opportunity. Right now, that doesn't exist with payday lenders and current financial institutions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For a second, there's.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Payne. I'm the Executive Director of the Central Valley Urban Institute, and We are a regional nonprofit that centers the needs of low-income communities across the Central Valley. Oftentimes, those who are on the margin of the decision-making process. We recognize as a policy advocacy and system change organization, we recognize the importance of public good and public benefit programs like CalAccount. And I think as we recognize the relationship between Black families and money, we can look to Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis, who took the national stage last week when her father, John Floyd, described the advice that he gave his daughter in how to save money. And how many Black families in our community choose to save money in a relationship and the importance of saving money. And Fannie said in her testimony that my father taught me how to save money as she testified against Donald Trump for stealing the national election. And I say that not to impress you, but to impress upon you the importance of CalAccount and what it means to so many low-income families across our region, specifically looking at Black households who have some of the highest concentrations of being unbanked here in the Central Valley. We recognize that when we look at predatory practices of banks and the long, dark history that banks share with Black families, and not just Black families, Black bodies, because we know that there were many deeds indentured slaves who were impacted for land transactions with our banks. And we don't want to see that from represented in this conversation around how we choose to save our money and debunking the trust that Black families share with banks, because we know that our state has been a guiding light in many of these conversations. And so it's our hope that these fees that we look to, that we see even from some of what we describe as the best actors in community banking. Educational Employees Credit Union has some of the highest non-sufficient fund fees in the state of California. And that's a local bank, community bank right here in our backyard. And so we would just ask that as the commission looks to evaluate processes and transaction fees, that there would continue to be a public benefit for low-income families here in the Central Valley choose to bank with our state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that have a comment? Hi everyone, my name is Julia Shahidi. I'm the Bay Area organizer at Rise Economy. We are an organization committed to closing the racial wealth gap. Some of the work that we do include holding banks accountable to meet the credit and financial needs of the communities that they're located in. But unfortunately, many banks are failing at actually doing that, especially here in the Central Valley, where a lot of communities are banking deserts. Recently, a family friend of mine's car broke down, and so I was able to give her a ride, and it just so happened that that day she needed to cash her check. We went to one bank, 2 check cashing places, and the post office in order for her to complete her task and get her money situated. This took about 3 hours, very unexpectedly. I thought it was going to be a quick errand. And she expressed to me that she actually does this every other Saturday. It is very expensive and time-consuming being unbanked and underbanked. To put it in perspective, Black and Latino households pay bigger shares of their income on interest and fees. Nationally, Black households pay 7% of their income on interest and fees. On average, Latino households pay 5% and white households pay 3%. These numbers do not include transportation or the time that unbanked and underbanked folks have to use just to access their money. So CalAccount will guarantee that all Californians have access to free basic banking services. which a lot of banks do not offer. Even the ones that have lower fees are still chipping away at the money that the most vulnerable Californians have and are already trying to make stretch. CalAccount will get rid of fees and penalties that target those who can least support them, and is a really necessary and important program. I know my family is not the only person that I know of or that, has to jump through hoops just to access their money and get their affairs sorted. I know people who have to go and get multiple money orders just to pay rent because they don't have access to financial services. And so this is I could sit here and tell stories upon stories. And so I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else have a comment? Maybe not. I'll see you to adjourn. Thank you all for coming today. Please, if you didn't sign in on your way in, please sign in on your way out so that we know who gathered with us today. Thank you very much. Have a great day. You're welcome.